You are standing in the kitchen at midnight. One new message, one sharp sentence, one familiar rush in the chest. And before you answer, before you defend yourself, there is a small space. That space is the beginning of strength. This is the episode for people who think they are still too reactive to count as disciplined. You may be wrong. Mental strength is not proved by never feeling the hit. It is proved by what happens between the hit and the reply. Rule 1. The pause is the proof. Musonius Rufus treated philosophy like training in the middle of ordinary life, not in a lecture hall, in habits, in appetite, in inconvenience. And whether you can stay clean in thought when pressure rises, the lesson is simple. A trained person does not have to become instant. A trained person becomes deliberate. Look at the difference. The old pattern is reflex. You see the message and your whole body reaches for the fastest escape. Anger, explanation, sarcasm, overthinking, a flood of text. The stronger pattern is smaller. You breathe, you read again. You let the first impulse pass without obeying it. That small delay is not weakness, it is command. If you want a phrase to keep, use this. Not every impression deserves a reply. In the Stoic view, the impression arrives first. Your judgment comes after. Freedom begins when you remember that order. So tonight, do not measure yourself by whether you felt stirred. Measure yourself by whether you noticed the stirring before it drove you. That is the first sign that your inner life is becoming harder to hijack. And here's the practical rule. When something provokes you, place your thumb on the screen, lower the phone, and count one slow breath before any response. Not to suppress the truth, only to make the response yours. A disciplined mind is not a dead mind. It is a mind that has learned to stand still long enough to choose. Rule 2. Discomfort no longer sends you fleeing. This sign shows up in ordinary places. You stay at the desk when the work turns difficult. You keep the set going when the gym becomes uncomfortable. You remain in the conversation long enough to hear what is actually being said, instead of escaping into a joke, a defense, or a screen. Most people think strength means feeling ready. Stoicism teaches something harder and more useful. You can be disturbed and still stay put. That matters because comfort trains fragility. Avoidance makes every slight inconvenience feel like a threat. Musonius Rufus is useful here because his teaching, as preserved in later reports, treats hardship as a kind of instruction. Not punishment, instruction. The heat of effort teaches the body. The friction of restraint teaches the mind. If you can remain present through discomfort without becoming dramatic, you are building a deeper kind of confidence. Watch the modern scene. A man is in a crowded office meeting. Someone questions his work in front of others. His face tightens. He wants to cut in. He wants to correct every detail. But instead of lunging at the moment, he writes one note, looks up, and waits until the interruption passes. That is not passivity. That is endurance with judgment. The sign is not that discomfort disappeared. The sign is that discomfort no longer owns the steering wheel. Keep this image, the training fire. Not the fire that burns you down, but the fire that hardens what can hold shape. Every time you stay with a hard moment without escaping, you are teaching yourself that unease is not an emergency. Practical rule: choose one small discomfort each day on purpose. Take the stairs. Finish the task before checking the phone. Sit through the first wave of irritation without acting on it. This is not self-punishment. It is voluntary practice. Rule 3. You recover faster. This is one of the clearest signs that strength is growing, and people miss it because they are watching for perfection. They think a strong person never gets shaken. That is false. A strong person may still be shaken, but they return to center more quickly. Epictetus is the sharpest guide here. His teaching keeps drawing attention back to what is ours and what is not. The comment is not yours, the weather is not yours, the insult landing badly is not yours. But the next judgment, the next action, the next refusal to spiral, that is yours. Imagine leaving a tense meeting. Your face is hot, your chest feels tight. You walk out to the elevator, and for 1 minute the old story starts. They disrespected me. I should have said more. I looked weak. That story can grow teeth if you feed it. But the sign of progress is that you do not stay there as long. You notice the narrative, and you stop feeding it. You go outside. You stand in cold air. You let the body come down. You take a walk around the block before sending any reply. Then you return to duty. That is the real difference. Not instant calm, faster restoration. Remember this phrase, don't worship the wound. The Stoic question is not, did something disturb me? The question is, how quickly did I come back to usefulness? Because usefulness is where self-command becomes visible. This is why stronger people often look quieter. They spend less time rehearsing the injury. They spend more time recovering their mind. Practical rule: after any emotional spike, build a reset ritual. Water, breath, short walk, 1 page of notes, then one next task. Do not force yourself to feel noble. Just return. Progress is not always the absence of storms. Sometimes it's learning how fast you can bring the boat back on course. Rule 4. You need less applause. At first, people chase approval because they want relief. They want a sign that they are safe, accepted, correct, important. But approval is a loud medicine with a short effect. The more you depend on it, the more unstable you become. One of the quiet signs of inner strength is that the room stops running your life. You still care, you still listen, you still do your work well, but you no longer shape every choice around being seen in the best possible light. This is where Epictetus remains practical. He keeps reminding the listener that freedom begins when outside opinion stops being the final judge of your worth. Not because other people are meaningless, because they are not the owner of your conscience. Look at a modern gym. Someone finishes a set. No one is watching. No one claps. No camera is up. This is where the true character of the action appears. The rep done correctly when nobody is impressed is a stronger sign than the speech about discipline later on social media. The same is true at work. You send the clean email, you correct the error, you do not announce your sacrifice, you stop explaining why you were right, you let the results speak. Musonius Rufus would recognize this immediately. If philosophy is real, it changes how you live when performance is unnecessary. Strength becomes ordinary, quiet, useful. Keep this phrase: applause is a test, not a reward. If praise is the only fuel, you are still being steered from outside. If you can act well without witness, you are becoming harder to manipulate. Practical rule: do one important thing each day with no announcement. Do not post it, do not hint at it, do not build a story around it. Let the act remain clean. That is how self-command matures. The less you need an audience, the more room you have to be free. Rule 5. You stop explaining yourself too much. This is one of the clearest signs that your strength is growing, because over-explaining is often a disguised plea. A plea to be understood, a plea to be excused, a plea to prevent discomfort before it starts. But a stronger mind learns that clarity does not require self-erasure. You can be respectful without giving a full courtroom defense for every boundary. Picture a crowded dinner table. Someone presses you to stay later. Another person wants an answer. The old pattern is to build a long speech so nobody feels disappointed. The stronger pattern is calmer. I can't stay. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available. Then silence. The silence matters, it gives your words shape. Epictetus is useful again because he separates your responsibility from other people's reactions. If someone dislikes your boundary, that is their feeling. You still have to decide whether the boundary is right. Their discomfort does not become your duty. Cleanthes belongs here as well, in the spirit of steady alignment with duty. We have his surviving hymn and fragmentary tradition, and the emphasis is clear. Live in a way that matches the order you claim to respect. That means no theatrical pleading, no scrambling for permission every time you choose the right thing. The memorable image is a locked gate in a storm. Not angry, not decorative, just closed because it should be closed. Practical rule: when you state a boundary, cut your explanation in half. Say the truth once, then stop. If you keep talking, ask whether you are informing or begging. That question can save you from handing away your center. Rule 6. Consistency has replaced drama. Many people wait to feel inspired before they act. They imagine strength as a surge, a burst, a perfect emotional state. But the deeper sign of mental strength is much less glamorous. You keep going when the feeling has gone home. This is where Cleanthes comes into view. In the surviving hymn, and in the broader tradition attached to him through later reports, the emphasis is not on flash. It is on willing endurance and alignment with what must be done. The idea is not to perform toughness. It is to remain faithful when nobody is handing out credit. Watch a morning before the city wakes. A person sits at a small desk with a notebook open, phone face down, coffee cooling, and one page of work already started. No dramatic music, no announcement, just the repeated choice to begin again. That is the quiet sign. You do not need a perfect mood to keep your standards. You do not need a heroic identity to answer the day. You simply return to the task. This matters because dramatic motivation is expensive. It burns hot and disappears. Consistency is cheaper and stronger. It is what remains after feelings change. Keep this image: stone worn smooth by water, not because the water was violent, but because it kept coming back. Practical rule: choose one anchor habit and protect it every day, especially on the days you feel least like doing it. A walk, a journal entry, a fixed wake time, a clear start to work. Small repetition is how the mind learns it can rely on you. You are not weaker for being ordinary. You are stronger when ordinary discipline no longer surprises you. Rule 7. Strength makes you kinder, not colder. This final sign is important because some people mistake control for hardness. They think if they become disciplined, they must become sharp, detached, or impossible to reach. Stoicism does not ask for that. Real strength should make you more useful, more steady, and more humane. If you are becoming stronger, you may notice something subtle. You interrupt less, you listen longer, you react less to petty friction, and you recover your patience sooner. Not because you have become passive, because you are less governed by every passing pressure. Musonius Rufus points us back to conduct. Epictetus points us back to judgment. Cleanthes points us back to endurance in alignment with duty. Taken together, they reveal a plain truth. Self-command is not meant to turn you into a stone. It is meant to turn you into someone reliable under strain. Picture the end of a hard day. The same person who could have snapped earlier now answers a tired partner with a calmer voice. They send a careful message. They tidy the workspace. They choose not to carry the conflict into the next room. That is not softness from weakness. That is strength under discipline. So if you want a final test, ask this: is my life becoming more orderly, more useful, and more humane? If yes, then the training is working, even if your feelings still rise and fall. The strongest people are not those who never bend. They are those who bend without breaking their character. Remember the line: a calm mind still has force. Practice for today. Notice one moment when you would normally escalate, explain, or withdraw. Pause. Choose the cleaner action. Then let that one choice count as evidence. This channel is for general educational and reflective purposes only. It is not medical, mental health, legal, or crisis advice. If this lesson helped you, like the video, subscribe to the Inner Citadel, and comment with the situation you want handled with stoic calm.